June 22, 1994, Andrés Escobar, the 27-year-old Colombian defender known as El Caballero, the gentleman of football, played the match of his life and the worst moment of his life on the same evening. At the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles, as Colombia faced the United States in the World Cup group stage, Escobar stretched to block a routine cross from American midfielder John Harkes. In a split second of cruel geometry, his leg deflected the ball into his own net. The stadium erupted. Colombia lost 2-1 and were eliminated. Escobar flew home to Medellin, a city then controlled by one of the most violent drug cartels in history. His teammates told him to stay away, to go to Las Vegas, to disappear for a while. He refused. He was home. On the evening of July 1st, he went out with friends to a bar in the El Poblado neighborhood. At 3 a.m., he was alone in the parking lot of El Indio nightclub, sitting in his car. 3 men approached. An argument erupted over the own goal. 2 of the men drew handguns and fired 6 shots into Escobar. It was reported that the shooter yelled, "Goal!" after every single shot. Once for every time the commentator had screamed the word during the broadcast. Escobar was left bleeding in the parking lot and died before reaching the hospital. He was 27 years old. Humberto Castro Munoz, a cartel bodyguard working for men who had lost heavily betting on Colombia, was arrested and convicted of the murder. In 2026, more than 32 years later, the prime suspect who ordered the killing, Santiago Galón Henao, was himself shot dead in a restaurant in Mexico, just weeks before the World Cup kicked off in the same country where Escobar had scored his fatal own goal. The case had never fully closed. It just ended. April 27, 1993. The Zambia national football team were on their way to becoming legends. They had humiliated Italy 4-0 at the 1988 Olympics. They were chasing a first-ever World Cup qualification, needing to beat Senegal in Dakar. Unable to afford a commercial aircraft, the Zambian Football Association arranged for the squad to fly in a Zambian Air Force military cargo plane, a DHC-5 Buffalo transport aircraft not designed to carry passengers in comfort. The pilot had flown from Mauritius the previous day and was already fatigued. The plane made refueling stops in Brazzaville and Libreville. Shortly after taking off from Libreville, Gabon, a fire broke out in the left engine. Exhausted and disoriented, with a faulty instrument panel giving misleading readings, the pilot shut down the wrong engine, the right one. The aircraft lost all power and plunged into the Atlantic Ocean just 500 meters from the beach, killing all 30 people on board, 18 players, coaching staff, federation officials, a journalist, and the entire flight crew. The greatest generation of Zambian footballers was erased in seconds. A lawyer for the victims' families called it gross negligence. The government had sent their finest athletes to their deaths in a faulty military plane to save money. A new team was assembled from survivors and youth players. Impossibly, they reached the Africa Cup of Nations final months later, and in 2012, 19 years on, Zambia finally won the Africa Cup of Nations. The final was held in Libreville, Gabon, just meters from where the plane went down. Before the match, the players walked to the shoreline and laid flowers on the water. They won, and they dedicated the trophy to the men in the ocean below. June 26, 2003. Marc-Vivien was the engine of Cameroon's midfield. The 28-year-old had won the African Cup of Nations twice, played in the English Premier League with West Ham, and was on loan to Manchester City from Lyon. At the Stade de Gerland in Lyon, France, Cameroon faced Colombia in the semi-final of the FIFA Confederations Cup, the tournament that feeds directly into the World Cup. In the 72nd minute, with no opponent near him, Foe suddenly collapsed in the center circle. He had been running, turned, and simply fell. His teammates froze. Medics rushed onto the pitch and performed CPR for 45 minutes on the grass, while 40,000 fans sat in stunned silence. He was stretchered to the stadium's medical center, still alive. Then he was gone. He was pronounced dead shortly after leaving the pitch. The cause of death was later confirmed by a second autopsy as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a hereditary heart condition where the heart muscle grows abnormally thick, drastically increasing the risk of sudden cardiac arrest during extreme physical exertion. He had never been diagnosed. He had never felt a symptom severe enough to stop him playing. The entire world watched Marc-Vivien die live on television. His shirt number, 17, was retired by Cameroon. France, where he had played for years, honored him with a minute of silence at every major fixture. His death triggered a global overhaul of cardiac screening for professional footballers. He was 28. His family back in Cameroon had no idea he was even sick. July 6th, 2017. Antonio Puerta... No, wait. Let's go back further. August 25th, 2007. Sevilla, Spain. Antonio Puerta, the 22-year-old Spanish left-back who had played in the Champions League final just a year earlier, collapsed on the pitch during a La Liga match. He was resuscitated by medical staff and appeared to be responding. He was taken to hospital. He suffered 3 cardiac arrests over the following hours. On September 28th, 3 days after collapsing on the pitch, Antonio Puerta died in hospital. The cause was the same silent killer that had taken Foe, arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy, a different variant of the same family of hereditary heart conditions. He had been cleared by medical screenings. He was 22 years old, newly married, and his wife was pregnant with their son. He never met him. His death, combined with Foe's, forced UEFA and FIFA to mandate cardiac screenings across all professional competitions, leading into World Cup qualification. 2 men who never got to play a World Cup changed the safety standards for every player who came after them. October 5th, 2003. Robert Enke was one of the most gifted goalkeepers Germany had ever produced. He had played for Benfica, for Barcelona, briefly, painfully, behind the undroppable Victor Valdés, and had rebuilt his career at Hannover 96, where he became the undisputed first-choice German national team keeper ahead of the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. What almost nobody knew was that Enke had been battling severe clinical depression for 6 years. He had kept it completely secret because he feared that if German football authorities knew, they would take custody of his adopted daughter. On November 10th, 2009, Robert Enke drove to a level crossing near Neustadt am Rübenberge and stood on the railway tracks as a passenger train approached. He was 32 years old. The German national team was set to play a friendly match the following evening. It was cancelled. His suicide note was recovered by police and, out of respect for his family, its contents were never made public. A memorial service held at Hanover's AWD Arena was attended by 40,000 people. The German Football Association, stunned by what had been hidden in plain sight, created the Robert Enke Foundation, dedicated to breaking the silence around mental health in professional football. At the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, the German squad wore black armbands. His wife later revealed that in his final days, Enke had been watching World Cup qualification footage, still dreaming about playing in it. He just couldn't hold on. September 28, 1994. 17 days after Escobar was buried, another shadow fell over football in the World Cup. Gabon star forward Bernard Ondo had also played in African World Cup qualification, but the story that shook the continent came not from a gun or a heart condition. It came from the political violence that surrounded the sport itself. Across the history of World Cup qualifying in Africa and South America, referees and coaches have been shot, players have been threatened, and matches have been used as pawns in conflicts far larger than the game. The beautiful game has always been played in the real world,